Okay, first, thank you for inviting me to speak here. My name is Andrea Bracko and I work as zoological director in Zagreb Zoo in Croatia. I will talk about the way we are tackling the bird collision with glass in Zagreb Zoo and about rising public awareness on the issue, and in this way maximizing the acceptance of the anti-collision methods. Okay, so first a few words about our zoo. It is a relatively small zoo in comparison to the most city zoos in Europe. It is just 7 hectares, out of which 1.5 is a lake. At the moment, we take care of more than 2,500 vertebrates and 4,600 invertebrates of 368 species. And I haven't written it, but pre-COVID numbers of visitors were around 400,000. So there is a lot of audience for different conservation topics. As you can see here, our zoo is located in Maksimir Park, in a huge park, which stretches on 316 hectares. It is the first large public in Southeastern Europe, founded in 1787. So you can imagine that we are dealing not with the issue of collision of our birds with glass, but we are dealing with a lot of wildlife as well. Since one of the main functions of the zoo is among education and research is conservation. And since the zoo is so small, we weren't able to support a lot of conservation efforts across the globe, but we are running many projects on the European wildlife. Some of the species we work with, you can see mentioned here. But with working on the white storks and griffon vulture projects, we also tackle the issues on electrocution and wind farm collisions. But I will still focus here on the glass collision issue. Big portion of our conservation work are conservation education activities. In pre-COVID-18, there were over 1,000 programs for more than 28,000 people. Out of 37 of our educational programs, 21 is certified for formal education, so it values as the regular class in the school. So there is a lot of pupil or students audience here for specific conservation topics such as collision. With our conservation education programs, among the other topics, we are working on the urban biodiversity issue. And as part of the campaign Bringing Nature Back into Our Lives, we launched a green network which aims to increase the number of indigenous plants and animals in the cities, with specific stress on the pollinators and collision with bird glass surfaces. So it was the start of our involvement with the collision issues within the education process. Besides the conservation education, we are also dealing with wild animal rehabilitation. Since 2018, on our premises, small rescue center is registered for the treatment and rehabilitation of wild animals. But we did deal with those issues for years, actually. As you can see, some numbers here, numbers were rising during the years. So we realized that there is a need for a bigger center, and we are going to build one off-site. Actually, we started just weeks ago with this EU-funded project. It will allow us to provide better service, but also get better idea on the collision issues, because through the rescue center, we also encountered many cases of the collision of the wild birds. But back to the zoo premises, for a decade now, we are working on the modernization of the zoo, and many new zoo projects included glass surfaces. So we decided to pay better attention on the situation in the zoo. As soon we started to register some proof of collision, like imprints or stunned birds. So we started with the Safe Fly project with the general aim to raise public awareness on the conservation of local white species, but we wanted to educate zoo visitors on the collision with glass surfaces, provide a tool for them to remedy the problem of bird colliding into windows in their homes, and to show example of good practice in the zoo. So we first gathered some preliminary information, first on the history of the problem in other zoos in general, as well as detailed information from the employees within our zoo on that issue. With these insights, we continued with the methodology design and monitoring from development. And in cooperation with the Volunteer Center Zagreb, we invited volunteers who wanted to get involved in this citizen science. Volunteers have been going through a loop of potential critical sites in the zoo, where they were recording events related to the collisions of birds with glass. Volunteers visited the zoo early in the morning between 6 and 8 a.m. when the zoo is empty, and from a.m. till the dark, because zoo works till the dark. These events were recorded by the zookeepers. Different profiles were included in each stage of the project, and thanks to our joint efforts, we increased the quantitative and qualitative reach in demonstrating importance of conserving the local fauna within these profiles. Non-experts were included from the beginning of the research and contributed to conservation through this citizen science project. So with this continuous monitoring, we discovered several casualties which would previously go unnoticed because they would be taken by predators. For each finding, record tables was filled with the following data: the date, weather condition at the time of finding the animal, location, time, temperature, species, because volunteers were previously informed on the most common species in the zoo, condition of the bird, whether it was alive or dead, and if dead, whether it was hot or cold, a description of the glass at the time the animal is found, for example, if there was a reflection or some other comments from an observer, and they were advised to take a photo of the animals found. After processing the data from monitoring, the decisions which glass needed to be protected first was made, and at the same time, the design for decals was being developed, as well as some additional educational content. So some solution came from the graphic designer. That was our way to tackling it. And some solution came from private high school for arts from Zagreb, whose students were actively included in the process of developing ideas for glass stickers to be provided for general public later in the project. And they used them to protect the glass panels in the school premises. So here are some photos of final product implementation. So you can see the enclosure of the serval on the left and on the wolf enclosure on the right, and some solution of the water bird exhibition. Also on the right, you can see the good solution, but with the poor performance. So you can see there are some cutouts here made because we are obliged to go through the public bidding. Each year we deal with the different companies, and they have their own solution on bringing what we ask them. So they made the print on the foil, but it was the translucent, but not totally transparent. So public did object, and we had to make this kind of solution for the moment, and we will have to exchange it in the future. Here in the African aviary on the right, left picture, you can see the ropes to present the public with that solution. And on the right, you can see the restaurant window. It was the first project on which we actually had an architect aboard with the idea from the beginning. Next season, we repeated monitoring to prove the efficiency of the glass protection. and found no killings. So we concluded that that would be sufficient and that we can further develop other decals for other projects we do. We made a poster and we shared with all school groups that participated in the zoo educational program that year. And you saw the numbers are quite big for that. So we have a big audience for that. And then the project was presented to the visitor as the zoo as a part of our biggest event on the year, Migratory Bird Day. It was also presented through our website, who has 400,000 visitors per year, and through other social networks of the zoo. And decals itself has a QR code on them, which links to the website with the explanation of the decals. Work on the active dissemination of information helps with understanding and also minimize the possible negativity regarding view from the public. I did mention urban biodiversity within conservation education part, but there are also other ways of involvement. So a city recognizes us as partners in green urban development. So we are the part of the group that is developing green infrastructure strategy for City of Zagreb. This February, we also applied for EU funding through the Interreg Central Europe Fund, together with 6 partners from 5 countries, to address issues like collision, injured birds, and lack of suitable habitats for feeding and nesting. Idea is to further activate participation of citizens on the urban biodiversity issues. And all those actions fit perfectly with the EU biodiversity strategy for 2030, as well into UN Convention on Biological Diversity. And that would be all from my side. Thank you.